It's not that hard to become a good photographer. Take lots of photos, practice, learn new techniques, and eventually you'll become skilled at it, just like anything else in life. But to become a successful photographer, to get work and repeat clients, that requires something a little bit more than just a good camera and an ability to edit in Lightroom. That requires a strong personal brand that makes you stand out from the crowd and make people not only want to hire you, but also make it easier for people to both refer you and find you. And weirdly, this is something that people seem to completely forget when they decide that they want to turn their photography into a business. In today's video, I'd like to discuss how to develop your own personal brand for your photography business, go through the history of my own branding, the mistakes that I made during my decade of working as a photographer, and help you get on the right track to creating a brand that gets you more paid work. And even if this is just a hobby for you and you don't want to work as a photographer, having a strong personal brand can still help you in other aspects of life. Not to mention that it'll make a world of difference to how you present your photography work to others. But first, before we begin, be sure to subscribe to see more great photography content. So, what is a personal brand? It's different to your reputation, as everyone has a reputation, good or bad. Rather, your personal brand is much more intentional. It's how you want others to see you. Whether it be your website, your Instagram feed, the name you chose for your business, the way you conduct yourself on social media, even your appearance, everything. To make it straightforward, in order to develop a good personal brand, ultimately you need 4 things. Number 1, a clear and unique identity. Number 2, a visual style that suits what kind of photography you're wanting to do. Number 3, visual cohesion. And most importantly, number 4, a good network. Let's break down all of these points by talking about my own personal brand and things I did that worked and didn't work. So let's begin with a clear and unique identity. For me, I go by Matthew Ruderman Photography, or simply Ruderman Photo. That's my handle everywhere. It is my actual name, so it'll never go out of style, but there is more to it than just my name, and it's all been very deliberate. So when I first started photography and I was coming up with a brand name for myself, the thought of just using my name seemed like it was too simple to be actually effective. So I racked my brain for names that sounded professional and somewhat related to photography, and I settled on, wait for it, The Viewfinder Photography, or short for TVF Photo. Yes, it's fucking terrible. I mean, what the hell is TVF Photo? Not only is it generic, it's also completely forgettable. It lasted for around a year before I had a conversation with a design lecturer back when I was at uni who suggested that I should just use my actual name. As not only was it distinctly me, it was also unique and it would never go out of fashion. And thus, Ruderman Photo was born. But on this YouTube channel, my name is Matthew Ruderman. And up until I started this channel, I hated being called by my full name, much preferring to be called Matt instead. And the reason that I changed it up was because I evolved my personal brand. Many people watching my videos may not know the kind of photography that I used to do, because I don't really want to be associated with that style anymore. And much of it I cannot unfortunately show you in this video, as it was fairly risque boudoir stuff, and I do not want this video to get demonetized. But that was when I was simply called Ruderman, and I had a tagline that I used on t-shirts and stickers. Who the fuck is Ruderman? It was edgy, provocative,
Gets the people going,
and it suited the style of flash-heavy nude photography that I used to do. But let's say that I wanted to shoot weddings. There is no way that type of branding would have worked for someone who wanted to hire me for a wedding. I mean, have a look at any good wedding photographer's website and you will notice that typically speaking, it's all light, airy and neutral colors, with a name that is usually a pretty safe choice, or oftentimes someone's actual name. But sometimes you'll get wedding photographers who go for a more daring look, picking bright colors and out there design elements which stand out from the crowd. Even their approach to photography can be a little bit more laid back. So for example, look at the photography of Lockie Scallion from Really Good Weddings, or Sarah Gadenzi, who feature more laid back, more approachable personal brands than other wedding photographers. And this is a great way to stand out from the crowd, and standing out from the crowd is key to getting more work. It's why Who the Fuck is Ruderman worked so bloody well for me. It asks the question, it's unique, and it's memorable. Also, this video is not sponsored, but if you guys would like to help me out, be sure to check out my Lightroom presets. I'll have them linked in the description below, and every purchase helps to support me and this channel. Regardless of what direction you want to go in with your personal brand, you must define your audience, as trying to appeal to everyone will end up with you appealing to no one. And also, don't underestimate the importance of storytelling and being personal, as people don't just buy into the work, they buy into you. If people feel like they know you through your brand, they are far more likely to engage with your work. So, back when I used to shoot that raunchy stuff, I used my Instagram for both work and personal reasons. And it meant that when I was shooting with girls, they knew who I was before we even started shooting, which led them to feel far more comfortable during shoots and resulted in much better photos. With that said, for other photographers with excellent personal brands, check out Jamie Radical, whose party photos have a very distinct grade to them, and his overall personality is just as chaotic as his photos. Or Cyan Moore, who runs the Clover Photography Agency, is another perfect example of a very distinctive personal brand which intertwines with his photography very well. But my edgy style wasn't the perfect solution either, as while it got me plenty of work from strippers and OnlyFans girls, it meant that for a lot of commercial work, I was out. Lots of brands like edgy, but not that edgy. My entire following consisted of men who were only there to see naked girls, not photography. And to be frank, I was really sick and tired of it, being constantly shadow banned on Instagram and not being able to land any big projects because of the association of being that guy that shoots nudes, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, as I described earlier, it was always intentional, and that was kind of what got me a lot of work in that industry in the first place, but I had just evolved as a photographer, and that wasn't the direction that I wanted to go in anymore. Your personal brand today might not be your personal brand in the next 5 years, and that is totally fine. The key is to be intentional with how you pivot, rather than just randomly changing things, and also trying to keep certain things consistent if possible, as changing names, logos, and branding too often will dilute your brand and make people forget who you even are. When I started this YouTube channel, I didn't want to completely rebrand into a new person because I'm not ashamed of the kind of photography I used to do. I just wanted to move into a new direction. So I changed the name slightly, but I kept the same visual cohesion from the Who the Fuck is Ruderman days. You'll notice that I used the same lowercase font for all my thumbnails, captions, and more. It looks like Helvetica, but if you look close, you'll notice that it's not quite the same. It's called Alta Haas Grotesque, and it's a font that I discovered in my first year of uni for graphic design. And it's meant to look like Helvetica, but printed on a page. I absolutely adore this font. So much so that it has pretty much stayed the quintessential Ruderman font for well over a decade. Stuff like this background, my living room, I try to keep consistent as well. Even my appearance, shaved head, beard, and black t-shirts are all part of my personal brand, and it's something that I try to keep as consistent as possible. This is all done intentionally. When you see a thumbnail with that font and it's done in my style, it makes it a lot easier for someone to recognize that it's one of my videos. It's the same reason that many other big YouTubers follow a similar thumbnail design structure of keeping things visually consistent. For another great photography YouTuber example, look at James Popsis and his thumbnails. They all share a very similar design language that means that the minute you see one of his videos pop up on your feed, you know it's from him. Picking a design element or a visual style that works for you and conveys the type of photography that you want to do and then sticking with it is one of the biggest steps in developing a strong personal brand. And if you're sitting there right now being like, okay, well, you have a design degree and I don't, and this all sounds super scary, fear not, because it really isn't as complicated as you might think. Just like how it takes time to become a good photographer, it also takes time to develop your own personal brand. Look at what other photographers in your field are doing. What do you like or don't like about their personal brands? Don't rush it. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with drawing inspiration from other photographers or other places. Who the Fuck is Ruderman wasn't entirely original. It was based off a design the clothing company Supreme did a long time ago that I thought was very clever, and I adapted and changed it enough to suit my style. You can always draw inspiration from fields that aren't the ones that you're in. So one thing that you learn about design is that there is very rarely actually any original thoughts. Everything is always inspired by something else. And I have no qualms in admitting that a large part of my editing style was influenced by the greatest of all time of YouTube himself, Casey Neistat, whose videos I've been watching for much longer than I've been doing photography. And he himself has admitted that his style was influenced by his brother, Van.
I went to visit Van the summer of 2000 and he showed me his computer. It was the first time I ever edited a video. And that first time I ever edited a video was because Van sat me down in front of my computer and showed me how to do it.
Who, in turn, was influenced by the artist Tom Sachs.
Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the creators of South Park, sort of tipping their hat to the extent to which the Simpsons had an influence on South Park. And my Simpsons is Tom Sachs.
But there is a difference between taking inspiration and outright ripping something off. And it's a line that you have to be very careful not to cross, as if you start to just rip someone off without adding any personal touches to your work, it will come off as not just cheap, but completely invalidates your personal brand, because it is not your personal brand, it's someone else's. Finally, let's talk about the final step in developing that strong personal brand, and that is building your network. Thankfully, this bit should be pretty painless, but it involves getting yourself out there, and the other three parts of what goes into your personal brand should do most of the legwork. So, when I made the Who the Fuck is Ruderman t-shirts, I photographed girls in them and I handed them out to people to wear, which was marketing, and the more people that saw it and got intrigued, the stronger my brand grew. And I'm not implying that you go out and design your own t-shirts, but think outside of the box when it comes to promoting yourself and your photography. Ignoring this business side is not wise, as a great brand does not work if nobody sees it. I started this channel as a means of promoting my photography, and while I severely overestimated how many Australians would actually watch my videos, given how small of a country we are, it has still done wonders in getting my name out there around the world. And every time I get a new message from someone in some far off place telling me that they love my work, it absolutely brightens my day. Alright, so a quick recap before we finish. So personal branding is all about having a unique identity, a consistent visual style, and building a strong network. It takes time, but if you stay consistent and intentional, it can be the key to taking your photography from a hobby to a thriving business. Well, that's all for today. I hope you guys have found this video useful, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next week, and have a great day.